Brothers by blood. That's how the South Korean president described the relationship between Seoul and Addis Ababa, referring to Ethiopia's role in dispatching troops to help out during the Korean War. It was the only African country to help a friend in need more than 6 decades ago. Since then, the friendship between the two countries has slowly but surely progressed. South Korea and Ethiopia, a special relationship dating back to the 1950s. Our news feature tonight with Oh Soo-young.
Meet Addis Lulu, an Ethiopian student in chemical engineering who came to Korea 2 years ago.
I've completed the Korean language program for 1 year. So now I'm attending my master's program. I was able to know that there was scholarship in Korea, and I have always wanted to come to Korea because of my grandfather has a story with Korea.
Lulu's grandfather was one of the 6,000 Ethiopian soldiers who fought with the South during the Korean War. Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie sympathized with Korea's ordeal under Japanese colonization and dispatched the Kagnu Infantry Battalion to support the South against the attacks from the Communist North. The Ethiopian soldiers fought 253 battles during the 1950-53 war. 121 soldiers died in the conflict, and more than 500 were injured. After the ceasefire in 1953, Ethiopia helped the South rebuild the country, providing medical support and welfare. To honour the veterans, Korea built a memorial centre in 1968. The centre, in the shape of 3 African huts, is on Ethiopia Road in Chuncheon, Gangwon-do Province, close to where the troops had been based. Inside there are ornaments, medals and war recordings, as well as exquisite cultural artefacts. Across the street, there's a coffee shop that was also built in 1968 by a Korean couple who was greatly moved by the veteran support. You can taste the fresh floral tones of Ethiopian coffee prepared the way you like it, from traditionally brewed to perhaps a latte. The family has kept the establishment alive with some of the finest Ethiopian coffee beans and traditional coffee roasting rites. The coffee house even had a visit from the Ethiopian emperor, and since then it's become a place of pilgrimage for Ethiopian diplomats and travellers alike.
They shed tears when they come, remembering their emperor. Also, all kinds of diplomatic events and cultural exchanges with Ethiopia happen here at this coffee house.
In the decades following the Korean War, Korea experienced a fast-track development and is now the world's 13th largest economy. It also transitioned from a recipient of official development assistance to a donor country in 2010, the first in the world to do so. Since 1991, Korea has been repaying Ethiopia's generosity with official development assistance.
In terms of the budget supported, Ethiopia is the largest beneficiary among the African countries. KOICA touches upon the goals of areas of focus, which are health, education, rural development, public administration, ICT, and other cross-sector issues such as climate change and gender.
Korean aid to Ethiopia has so far reached around $108 million, and this year there are 11 bilateral projects underway. Besides foreign aid, Korea also supports war veterans' descendants with academic scholarships for students in Ethiopia, funded by the Hwacheong County where the soldiers were based.
Many of the veterans' grandchildren in Ethiopia couldn't afford to go to school, but now most of them do, and they even go to university with our full support. We've supported 177 students since 2009, from elementary school to university.
Most of Ethiopians do appreciate that Koreans are helping, especially in education sector. So it's really good to know that Koreans are by our side.
As the unique relationship of Korea and Ethiopia continues down the generations, President Park Geun-hye's visit is widely anticipated to strengthen relations, adding a brand new chapter to their story of friendship. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
The free world stands strong against aggression in Korea. Ethiopia, a member of the community of free nations, has sent men into the offensive against communism's armed attack. Ethiopia is helping to combat the menace in Korea. It is not strange that Ethiopians should be fighting aggression so far from home, for they have taken their rightful place among the free and independent nations of the world. At the Japanese Peace Conference, Ethiopian delegate Atu Menbera Yahared tells the assembled nations that Ethiopia is happy to participate in signing a treaty which ends a terrible epoch. They deliberated with representatives of other nations, and together they designed a document which offers Japan generosity in defeat, with new hope for a peaceful, prosperous future. Ethiopia's delegates contributed to a successful conference the wisdom and dignity of an ancient people. Recognition of Ethiopia as a factor on the world scene led to the recent signing of a treaty of friendship and commerce between Ethiopia and the United States. With Minister H.E. Akilu, Mr. Childs signs the expression of goodwill and affirms U.S. respect for the African nation. Later, at the Imperial Palace, His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie receives the ambassador and his staff. His Imperial Majesty's signature completes the ceremony. To Korea, to support the UN cause, Ethiopia has sent a battalion of soldiers. Cheering Koreans greet the men who arrived together with replacements from 3 other nations. The brothers in arms were welcomed personally by the President of Korea, Sigmund Rhee. Previously, Ethiopia contributed $100,000 for medical assistance to the men of other nations already in the battle. One chap brought his instrument all the way from home. Ethiopian troops made a smart first impression in Korea. An Ethiopian officer reported the morale of his men was very high and that they were anxious to participate in this operation. All of his men are volunteers, and additional units and replacements are being sent to Korea periodically. Here, the battalion's first campsite is established. This rough Korean terrain is an ideal training ground for an introduction to Korean battle conditions. To make the several United Nations forces a more efficient team, everyone uses the same types of weapons and ammunition. This means getting acquainted with new or slightly different equipment. Hence, the preliminary orientation course for already well-trained soldiers. UN officers said they welcome this effective addition to their fighting strength. They commented that the Ethiopians' previous training at home, where the rugged mountains are similar to those in Korea, would add to the know-how of the United Nations forces. The men accustom themselves to UN signal equipment. The international force must be in constant touch by telephone and radio. This classroom, just behind the front lines, was a battleground half a year ago. This man is getting acquainted with his newly acquired accessory called a canteen cup. Foot soldiers working with tanks are making important gains in Korea. The men get an insight into the effectiveness of the new combat equipment. Time out before going into battle for ceremonies celebrating His Imperial Majesty's birthday. An officer reads a message from the Emperor. Dances reminiscent of happy moments at home are the order of the day. visiting Americans accept challenges to a friendly bit of sport. The men collect their equipment and assemble for the trip to the battlefront. Soon they will be fighting alongside other soldiers from the United Nations. With their aid, the communist aggressors will be repulsed. Poised for the attack, Ethiopia's men are in close contact with troops from the other nations. Side by side, they enter the battle. The troops successfully come through their first baptism of fire. Ethiopia, realizing communism's threat to independent peoples, will uphold its contribution to the free world. Ethiopia's faith in collective security has been affirmed. The presence of its men in Korea reinforced the principle of the UN Charter, that aggression, to succeed anywhere, is a threat to free peoples everywhere.